I was literally at my desk at the job, and she sent a message like, please help, I'm dying. But tomorrow I'm going to come back and I'm going to cook this chicken. But tomorrow never came. So I was sitting there and I was like, if there's something I want to do, I need to do it now. Literally went the next day, quit my job with no plan. I was like, I'm going to be a filmmaker, quit my job, told them I'm going to go travel the world. They're like, what are you doing?
And a massive thanks to my sponsors, I'm Not Plastic, Ocean Freedom Co., Wazoogles, Gudco, Numuti, and SoPure Natural. Here we go, another episode of Down Deep, where hopefully we're going to get down and deep with the man himself. I'm probably going to have to say this a few times, Neo Mokwene.
That was really good.
Was it all right?
Yeah.
Are you not just blowing smoke up my bottom?
No, I would have told you if it wasn't. That was really good.
AKA, and I'm sure you can see this without him even having to spell it out, the Black Tony Stark. I feel like we should have some Iron Man music playing.
You'll put it in.
Yeah, I'll put it in, bro. Yeah. Neo. Should I just call you Tony?
You can go with Mr. Stark.
Okay, Mr. Stark. Great to have you on Down Deep. You've just got back from Ghana, West Africa, your home country. How was it? Because I saw surfing and I saw some beautiful beach scenes. Yeah, tell us about it.
So Ghana is actually my ancestral home. So my mother was South African, my dad was Ghanaian.
Okay.
So I go to Ghana to see my father's side of the family, like my grandmother, she's still there. It was her 89th birthday.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, I went over there, but there's also a film concept that I'd been writing for a while. And I was trying to figure out the pieces of like how I'd put it together and who the characters would be and all that. And I was like, wait, this is a good opportunity to connect with Ghanaian surfers, because to go back, when I was on Corona Island, my roommate was a Robbie Berman, he's a surfer. And I was like, hey, how cool would it be if we made a film? And I was like, wait, I have a concept. So if I could put you in, and then it'd be like a story of how a South African white surfer could connect to a Ghanaian surfer, and how surfing and the ocean really connects us. Like it's you'll catch the story when I do the story. But yeah, so I use that as an opportunity to go, and I there's a very popular place in Ghana where people always do the surfing in Busua, but that's where all the films are made. So all the surfing community closer to the capital isn't as supported. So I was like, there's no point in me going to make a film about the guys that everyone's making a film about. Let me try support the closer guys and find a unique story. So I found this guy on Instagram, Joshua, and I was like, hey, dude, I'm coming through in a few weeks. I'm going to come talk to you. And he was like, yeah, sure. So got on the plane, went there. Homie filmmaker in Ghana, he was here as well in Cape Town a few weeks ago. He took me. We went on a road trip, hour and a half. Found this guy in his little shack, his little surf shack thing with these surfboards. And I was like, hey, I'm here. And he's like, whoa, cool. So he was telling me his story and everything. And I was like, you're the guy. We're doing the film with you. And then I found out that he's supported by an NGO in Ghana, Surf Ghana. So they do the skating and the surfing and all that. And they try to uplift the community. So he suggested I should speak to them as well, because they might be interested. So I went to go see them. So I hopped in the car, went to their headquarters, met with them. They were having a girls' skating class then. And I was like, hey, I could actually add a story, another layer to it. So it'd be like ocean and land, South Africa, Ghana. I'll figure it out. But yeah, that's what started just flowing as the trip was going. I don't know if that answered your question.
Well, I'm kind of thinking you just threw in this land bit, yeah, and kind of just slotted it in there because you saw my little land and sea thing behind you there, and you thought you'd try and you see that one bit of artwork there by Max Armstrong.
Okay.
He's based down in Scarborough. Legend.
Okay.
And I think you saw that, and subconsciously you just put that skate thing in there and added another layer off the back of this podcast, perhaps.
I counter that.
Okay.
I think I'm here because it was going to happen anyway.
You manifested it.
We did.
True. Because we've been chatting a while on the gram. Tell the good people of the world, like, what is it that you're a filmmaker, essentially? Would you label yourself as a filmmaker?
One of many things I do. It's tough.
Okay.
Yeah.
So am I going to need two hands or one?
you'd probably need your feet as well.
Okay, cool. So let's go with, what would you say your top tier Black Tony Stark? What is your top tier label? Are we going to use the I word?
No, I'm gonna go with connector.
Connector.
This answer is not gonna go where you think it's gonna go.
Okay.
Okay, so I've figured out my purpose.
Okay.
So in life, all of us are trying to figure out. I know what my purpose is, and it's in my name as well. Neo in Sotho means gift. My second name, strangely enough, means gift as well in Sotho. It's Neo Rifilwe. So like my parents gave me two names that are gifts. So I'm like, there's something about that, right? So
Yep.
I've always felt like my purpose is to bring people to enlightenment and to help people find the best versions of themselves. Any place or person that I meet or place I'm at has to be better after I leave it. So when I say I'm a connector, my role now, it's not so much me trying to find fame and things. I'm doing things so I can market myself, so I can bring opportunities to people around me because I'm a gift. So that comes in many forms. So it could be a film thing. So with, for example, I did a social media campaign where I brought in a filmmaker who I've been working with closely, Ali, and I've helped him through a creative process, and he started to do like more amazing work through me helping him through that. So he does the filmmaking side of it. Then I have other friends who do like social media stuff, and I help them with that. I have friends who have businesses, I'm a connector. I'm just there to help everyone around me be better.
Like a conduit.
Yeah.
There we go.
That's the one.
Conduit.
Yeah.
All right, for good energy.
That's the one.
So you're the direct opposite to Eskom, basically.
I'm the source. Yeah, but I never go off though.
You bring the good energy.
Yeah, I'm the light.
Eskom takes it away. Okay. Well, maybe they need a campaign, like a Black Tony Stark campaign. Eskom, if you're watching, this man is a conduit for good energy. Okay, so you're a conduit, you're a connector, you bring people together. I'm hoping that when you leave, I'm going to be feeling better about myself and this whole concept of the podcast, because that's what you profess to do. Great. And then you're a little bit of an influencer on Instagram, right? There's that I word.
Yeah.
Had to throw it in there.
I don't, people who find offense in people calling them influencer or whatnot, it's like, well, if you're doing all that stuff and you get paid to do that stuff and you are influencing people to do things, what's wrong with the label?
Own it.
Yeah. Like I recently saw, it was, who was it? One of these celebrities. Sorry, a South African one, Sarah Langa or someone. And she was like, this person's stealing my routine and she's wearing the same clothes as me and all of this. And it's like, but you post it. And that's what people hire you for, to influence people. So why are you upset that you are influencing people?
Interesting. Yeah, some people see it as like you say, they feel threatened. But it's a compliment because it's a community listening to them. There's a crazy stat out there about influencers and community, and we can talk about this because I think it's something that needs talking about, because I find a lot of influencers and content creators and people out there, there's a major difference between reach and engagement, right? So I mean, for those of you that don't know this, but like reach is the community, the collective amount of people, let's say on Instagram, on a 30-day period, that your reels and your stories and your posts get fed to, and you get given those analytics after every 30 days, or it keeps updating. And you might have a reach of 500,000 or 1 million or beyond that, or 100,000. But the engagement is where it's important. Would you like to explain engagement and the difference between reach and engagement?
Okay, so the reach is how many people are going to see your post, and the engagement is how many people actually do something on the post, whether it's, you can go deeper in engagements, as in a comment is an engagement, but even liking a post, sharing a post, all of that is engagement. So someone does something on your post. That's the difference. So reach is just how many people will see it. Yeah.
But the important bit is the engagement, I think, for brands.
So okay. Sorry, I was a little slow on that to catch where you were going. So the point is cool. So people are so worried about the reach these days and not worried about the engagement, because the reach, you could get reach on a bad post that doesn't serve you in any way or serve anybody's needs. Like it could be a random post and it goes really far, but no one engages with it. Oh, sorry. Oh, okay. Let me restart that thought. I'm going too fast there. So you could have a post that does really well reach-wise, but doesn't do anything for your brand maybe or for anything that you stand for. You could have a post that doesn't get a lot of reach but gets a lot of engagement, and that's more valuable to brands, because if they're coming to you because you do a specific thing, it means your audience is valuable to them, right? So the amount of people in that audience that are engaging with that post shows them that there's value in them using you. An example is when I worked with the iStore. Initially, they wanted to do an influencer campaign or follow the model in America where they use influencers for products. You know, like Peter McKinnon and all those guys will have like DJI products and all that and do that. They said the problem in South Africa is we don't have a big enough audience for that LSM, right? So the idea was to get reach, they would go for someone like Prince KB, who has 2.4 million followers. Then they stopped and they thought, wait, we can send it to his 2.4 million followers and 2.4 million people will see it, but what percentage of those people will actually buy the product? So it doesn't make sense going for all that reach. Like, well, we spent all this money and one person buys it. Rather go for someone who has 10,000 followers, but you know at least 100 of those people actually care for the product.
There's a call to action.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I thought I'd unpack this with you because of, I get a lot of guests and a lot of them are not necessarily so focused on social media and Instagram. And, I find this quite an interesting territory, especially in South Africa. And my next question to you would be, like, other than blue chip corporate South African brands, do you think smaller brands understand, firstly, and then appreciate the power of social media platforms? Like, forget Facebook, let's talk about Instagram and TikTok. Do you find the smaller brands are up to speed comparatively to, say, the US and Europe?
You're right that no, they're not up to speed. So even for people in general, when you think about it, people complain about the algorithm not giving them reach and not doing all of this and all that. At the end of the day, Instagram is a business, right? If you opened up a shop and let people come into your shop and advertise their goods and as many people that see it for free, would you complain? For example, you put up a video and it only gets 100 views and you go, the reach is horrible. If I brought 100 people to you now to listen to what you have to say for 15 seconds, you would think you're a celebrity. So when people think about social media, it is a free platform for you to really advertise. Like, it is free. You can literally do whatever you want with it. A lot of small businesses are so worried about being like, oh no, but we need this strategy and I need to put money behind it and all this. Like, stop thinking about that. Just get out there. There's no other place that is going to give you a free platform to advertise to billions of people with no restriction.
Yeah.
And then, then people obviously now Instagram is, as because it's a business, they're like, well, I can't let you just come in here and advertise your stuff for free and you guys make deals and I make nothing, but I'm hosting all of you guys. I'm like, well, if you want more people to see it, give me some money. If not, I'll throw your post somewhere in there. And when someone who's giving me priority and giving me money, I'll show their post. It's a business at the end of the day.
Well, I view it as a shop front because, I very rarely use websites, when I'm on my laptop, maybe book a flight, whatever. But online purchasing, I do it via my phone, browsing onto the website via the phone, through an app, a lot of apps. But Instagram is almost like a shop front. And the reels are the hooks to get people into the store. And then once you're in the store, once they're on the website, then they're ready to shop, kind of thing. But if you don't have a good shop front that's dressed and curated and that doesn't, and we go into another thing now about, you look at Red Bull, you look at even Apple, there's not a single product shown on their pages, on their social media pages. Red Bull, you won't find a shot of a can of Red Bull on their Instagram. And Apple, you won't either. it is lifestyle. It is their community doing cool stuff that is enabled by their product, but they are not selling with their product. And I think that's where a lot of brands also don't understand the power of using, for want of a better word, ambassadors, creatives, to get the message across in an organic way, as opposed to like, this is my sponsor, Ocean Freedom. This is amazing. Why? Well, there are no bad chemicals in here. And it's blue, just like the color of my, like that's cheesy, man. It's like, and there's so many South African brands that still think that that's how people want to be sold to. Don't you agree? To not knock the bigger brands out there, because they've got teams who understand the power of social media, and they've got agencies and who unpack the demographics, they unpack the audit trail that the machine gives you at the end of the day. They look at the demographics and they drill down into it. And we'll get into that in a second as to how powerful understanding reach and engagement and demographics actually is, if you know how to use it. But I think a lot of the smaller brands think that that's what they have to do. They have to find people to sit there and open a can of something, or
I hear your point. I think it's down to possibly budget constraints. So a lot of smaller businesses have to, as the owner, you have to be everything. So you have to be the marketer, you have to be the CEO, you have to be all of those things. So a lot of people own businesses, and because they see how easy things are for other people on Instagram, they think, oh, I can also do marketing. So they're coming in with their accountant brain trying to market to people, and it doesn't work. So that's where the disconnect happens, because now it's an accountant trying to be like, well, we have this much budget, we need to put the product here, we got to show the product 5 times and this and this. And it's like, but that's not how you sell a product, because you're an accountant. So the problem is, there's a lot of, even in some agencies, unfortunately, there are a lot of people that are in positions that have to make those kind of decisions that don't make sense. So influencers now are having to do campaigns, because obviously the agencies have the money. You're doing a campaign that doesn't make sense to you, but you're like, well, got to pay the bills. I can't be authentic in this. And this is their guideline, and they're basically willing to accept whatever you give them as long as it's within the guidelines. So whether it works or not, as long as we've ticked that box, that's okay. And that's the problem.
Interesting.
That's what, I definitely believe that's the problem. Because a lot of campaigns that I get as well, I already push back from the get-go. Like, they'll say, oh, you need to do this and this, and people win this thing. And I'm like, that's not going to work. I'm not doing that. And they're like, oh, how could we adjust it? I'm like, okay, why don't we try do this and this? And it's like, oh, that actually makes sense. I'm like, sure. But I know other influencers aren't doing that. They're just getting briefs, and they're like, well, that's what we have to do. That's what the check says. So.
Yeah, and I think there's a few brands out there that you can call to mind straight immediately. For me, I think of a brand like Nando's, and the way in which they've so cleverly, it's almost like guerrilla marketing, the way in which they go about getting people to pay attention. And I think that's also a space where, a lot of, but again, going back to you talking about people who start businesses and understand budgets, and they go, there's brands out there that go, oh, you know what, I can only send you some T-shirts, or I can only send you some product, but I can't pay you anything. We don't have it in our budget. Well, like, I'm sorry, but like, do you not understand that if you're going to start a business, you've got to have some sort of marketing budget, right? So what are you spending if you're not able to give the money to an influencer or an ambassador, someone who's being really creative? Where are you spending that money? Are you building an archaic website? Are you putting something in the yellow pages that nobody read, or print that's dying? So where are you spending this budget that you don't have to actually spend in a space where you should be spending it?
I never thought of that angle, but that's so true.
I just don't get it. So you basically admitting to
not having your shit together.
Well, exactly. If you don't plan, what's that saying? If you don't plan properly, then you're going to plan to fail, basically. So anyone who's got any business acumen knows that there's marketing budget. And you know the Red Bull story with the cans, right?
Tell me. case
Okay.
I don't know.
So the story goes that when Red Bull started out, no, let me start again. So when the guys at Red Bull decided to hit the market, they sat down and they had a meeting, and some bright spark said to the bean counters that we're not going to take the money and buy, I'm just using hypothetical numbers here, 10,000 pallets of Red Bull with the Red Bull product in it. We've got the product. We know we've done our sampling and everybody loves the taste and the benefit, well, what you get from it. We're going to take the money that we were going to use to produce the actual drink, the liquid, and we're going to buy 100,000 pallets of empty cans. And we're going to take those empty cans and we're going to fill the trash cans around Europe at music festivals with empty cans of Red Bull. Okay? What a crazy idea.
Genius.
But genius.
Oof.
And the genius behind it is that, like, everybody was seeing this stuff everywhere. There was way more reach. The engagement was, well, I'm not getting any because someone's drunk this or had it. Why can't I taste it? You know, that's the engagement. They're getting more reach because they've got more cans out in the market. Mm-hmm. Okay, no one's drinking the product, but you know, it's genius actually, and that's proper guerrilla marketing in action and out the box thinking. Yes, it's been done, but I still think there's a space on the gram and on TikTok to have people paying attention to that sort of marketing.
It's very, because it's on two levels because of that reach level, but also psychologically, what people were seeing is that they were seeing empty cans. So they're like, well, if there's an empty can, means someone is drinking Red Bull. So if so many people are throwing, like if they're seeing so much trash, like everyone's drinking Red Bull, how come I haven't tasted Red Bull? And now they're like, oh, I need to get a Red Bull. So now just that psychological marketing, it's genius. Genius.
So let's get back to why Black Tony Stark, other than the fact that you're probably his fan.
The timing of this question is brilliant because I just figured out the end of it now. So I as I was growing up, I always tried to find meaning in things because, you know, as humans, we always have to compare something to something else. Like you can't, there's nothing that you see. Like, for example, you'd be like, well, this car costs R1 million because it has these rims. That car costs only $500,000 because it doesn't have rims. So it makes sense why that one is more expensive than that one, right? So in my life, I'd always been trying to figure out like who I am and the things I do. And I watched an Iron Man movie and I saw personality traits and things he was doing. And I was like, that's kind of like me. So I was like, I took on that persona, be like, that's the reference I have for who I am. But as I've been growing up and figuring out different versions of myself, recently I felt like I'm actually not so much Iron Man anymore. I'm more like Deadpool.
All right.
And then through further...
You know you can change your handle on Instagram.
No, but I can't. Black Deadpool doesn't sound as cool as Black Tony Stark, though. Come on.
Oh, that's true. But I mean,
yeah.
What do you think, Maurice?
What do you think?
Black Deadpool.
Nah, it has to be Black Tony Stark. Because even the crazy thing is...
If you called yourself Blackpool, people think you're from the northeast of England.
Yeah, like a soccer player or the soccer team, Blackpool.
Blackpool, yeah.
Yeah.
I've been to Blackpool. They got a crazy... Yeah, they got a crazy roller coaster there, like a very old one from the 1930s. It's in the northeast of England.
Did you go on it?
I can't remember if I did. I'm sure I did. It wasn't memorable.
Okay.
It wasn't a very big one.
I'm wondering if...
But I'm thinking Blackpool, maybe not.
Mm-mm.
Okay, Black Tony Stark. So you relate to him?
Well, not anymore.
Okay,
now I relate more to Deadpool. But then recently I've started relating more to... Are you familiar with the Watchmen? Watchmen? Yeah. You guys know Dr. Manhattan?
Mm-hmm.
That's who I feel like I am now.
Okay.
Yeah. With my purpose and everything, I'm like... And I keep seeing all these quotes and things that like people put on Instagram and stuff from Dr. Manhattan. And I'm like, that sounds a lot like me.
Mm.
Yeah. But I'm not changing it to... Yeah, it's still Black Tony Stark. Yeah. Nah. Black Manhattan. Actually sounds kind of... Nah.
That's like, that would be sort of like if Eskom went to New York? Black Manhattan.
And we were talking about the Eskom deal before, right? Here we go. Here's the campaign name.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Eskom's coming to New York. Black Manhattan. Whoa. You could be there in your little chamber of torture chamber.
No, we don't do torture here.
Okay, cool, bro. It's all about love.
All about love.
All about love.
We only preach love.
So what are what are you trying to achieve with this? I mean, you're very active on social media, Instagram, your videography and your editing, it's all done by yourself.
Depends.
Okay.
So some projects I do edit myself, and then some projects I do work with other people.
Yeah.
But the majority of this stuff is edited by me. Yeah. Or
Okay, cool.
I was the creative director, or there's always a part of it that I had in it.
Because it gets expensive, you know.
But see, that's the trick, though. You gotta. That's why you bring them on as part of the team, like it is, right? But you empower them more. So with Ali, initially, actually, how we met was I was booked for a gig here in Cape Town. He was booked for the same gig. So it's two videographers, and in the videographer space, it's like a little competitive. But we didn't come in with that ego kind of thing. We're kind of like, we saw each other's work and we're like, yo, we're very similar. This is interesting. So let's work together, right? So from then, I realized like in what I'm trying to do, it doesn't make sense if both of us are trying to compete to be the best videographer. He's more passionate about it. So I'm like, you know what? Let's work on you becoming a better videographer. I'm going to go focus on making the money. So that's what I do with everyone. Like if I see a talent in someone, I'm like, let's nurture that talent. I'll go do the work. So even the way I use my social media, it's more marketing than anything. Like anything I post there, it's so that I can get further work or show people a capability or something. It's not like, oh, let me get famous. I'm like, no, I'm getting you guys to get the attention to me. Then when they're in the emails, I'm like, yeah, here's my team. We can do the work.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's my shop front.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you've got all the whole team in the background.
Exactly.
You mentioned, who was it that you mentioned?
Tufail Ali.
Okay. And Tufail Ali is a videographer?
Yeah, he's a I call him a visual artist.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is he local to Cape Town?
No, he's actually based in Durban.
Okay.
He's on a different level. But it works because we were so similar, but I can get a vision and I can see things and ideas, and he's able to put it into physical. So we work we're very in sync. It works very well.
Even within the Marvel crew, there's a few listen here, bro. Like Black Tony Stark, and I've got my team too, Okay, I got pretty dangerous. Heavyweights.
Yeah, I know.
On my team,
I
bro.
know.
Just saying, hashtag.
Yeah, we are still on the same team, but Maurice is yo.
Who would you say he is
as a character?
Yeah,
I'm leaning towards an anime character. I'm gonna go Vegeta. Yeah,
Vegeta.
Yeah,
Vegeta.
You can say Vegeta. I say my T's.
Okay.
We're not in America, son.
Yeah. I was there recently.
I know. Oh, you still got the egg.
So any big upcoming projects besides this film that you've just shot a lot of content for?
No.
In Ghana.
This is the film. No, that was just me going to talk to the team.
It's a recce.
Yeah, it's just the recce. I needed to actually meet him and hear his story to see if it fits with what I need, and then see because it's one thing to see pictures on Instagram and be like, oh, that's how it is. And you get there and you're like, well, no. Yeah.
Okay. So this was a recce to Ghana. Mm-hmm. And how long is this film going to be?
I don't know. I go on feeling with everything. So it could be. Oh, by the way, so my brother, I've got brothers in Canada. He already, once we were talking in Ghana, he already created a soundtrack for the film. So we already soundtrack down, characters down.
Wow.
Just waiting. I'm probably in May. We'll see. But yeah, I don't know about the length yet. We'll see where the story takes it.
Interesting. It's very cool to be able to have the creative freedom and license to be able to move with a feeling. Very different to being given a remit or from a brand or from a client, to be able to move. And you need that as a creative, don't you? You need that to feed your soul, because that's the most important bit.
That is so true. Yeah, so true. Because initially, I tried to do it with a certain brand, sent them everything, the costs and the storyboard. They got the mail and then they kept quiet. So I'm like, huh? So I was like, okay, that's a blessing for me, because if I'd gone with them, like you said, there were going to be those constraints and be like, no, I can't do this, can't do that, can't do that. But now as time has gone, I'm taking those same concepts and I'm like, actually, I'm going to do it myself and I'll do it exactly how I want to do it. You guys can keep your money or whatever.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
As long as we say it's available on his masterclass.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we can, because there's a lot more depth to it.
We can punt the masterclass.
Well, I don't really sell the masterclass.
You don't sell it?
What is
the masterclass?
So the masterclass, like I did with my good friend Ali, it's almost like a creative rehab. So I have understandings of the human mind and certain shrooms and other medicinal things. So I experiment on myself. Oh, timing.
This is downtown Cape Town. If we were to show you what's out the window, you would understand where we're at. Sorry for the noise, folks. Sorry for the interruption, Mr. Stark.
It's all good.
If there's one man who shouldn't be interrupted, it's this man. Now, hear up.
So as I was saying, so I have like a creative rehab.
Okay.
So people like creative friends who are going through like creative ruts or whatever, they come to my place for like a week or two, take them through like talking through how they feel, getting them off like bad foods, breaking addictions, all that stuff, teaching them like how to be the better version of themselves.
Wow.
So that ties into my own fitness journey, because to go all the way back, right, how I started in filmmaking, right, I was in a social media agency in like 2016. So I was at a creative agency and I just felt like I wasn't fulfilling my potential. So I used to literally sit at my desk and I'd be watching YouTube tutorials of like filmmaking and travel. So travel had always been a part of my family, because my family is all over Africa. I was born in Tanzania. My mother's South African. My dad is Ghanaian, like all over the place. And so born in Tanzania, lived in South Africa, but we always did family trips and we always traveled all over the place. So I had this travel thing in me. So when I was working in the creative agency, the social media was starting to pick up, and then there's a lot of exposure for like people like Sam Calder and all these travel filmmakers. And I was like, whoa, that's what I want to do. But my job, as much as I loved the agency, they're doing amazing stuff now, was so unfulfilling. It's kind of those things where like the corporate structures force you to be like, if we're doing a dog brand, I'm literally just sourcing a picture from Shutterstock and we slap a logo like, this dog food is great. And I'm like, that's not what I'm trying to do. And so I was just doing that for the longest time. Then my mom passed away.
Sorry to hear.
Thank you. I was literally at my desk at the job and she sent a message like, please help, I'm dying. I'm literally sitting there. I'm like, whoa, what's going on? Like, so I tried to call her and she's not answering. I couldn't hear. And I was like, okay, this is worrying. But now the office is in Sandton. It's like 4 p.m. Traffic to get to, because I'm like, I don't know what's happening. So I'm trying to drive to a house. I'm trying to call my brothers. Everyone like, can anyone get there? My brother's working William Nichols' side. Is like, there's no way he's getting there before me. Get to the house. I find her there. She had a heart attack. But she was still alive, right? So when we're taking her out of the house, there was chicken on the counter that she had left there to thaw over, because in her mind, she was obviously going to cook it the next day. So that happened. She went out. Eventually, she passed away, right? But the one thing that stuck in my mind was that chicken. So like I said, she thought tomorrow I'm going to come back and I'm going to cook this chicken. But tomorrow never came. So I was sitting there and I was like, if there's something I want to do, I need to do it now. Literally went the next day, quit my job with no plan. I was like, I'm going to be a filmmaker, quit my job, told them I'm going to go travel the world. They're like, what are you doing? And at the same time, this competition came up, Busabout. They had a competition where you could win a trip with them in Southeast Asia, and you would be a videographer. You'd be paid to travel and document the stuff for them. And I was like, that's what I'm going to do. So I submitted my video and all that. So I'd entered the competition, but I'd already quit my job. So 30 days notice is like, I had to give 30 days notice. So I'm sitting there every day at the office waiting for this mail. Like, yo, guys, I need to win this competition because I don't know what else I'm going to do. Legit, last day of my notice, 4 p.m., got an email, you won the competition.
Wow.
Thank God. That's like that confidence. I wasn't even that good at video. Like I look at the video I submitted then and I was like, I don't know how y'all let me win, but thank you.
Amazing.
So anyway, I was off to Southeast Asia for 6 weeks. So traveled around there, Vietnam, Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, experiencing the cultures and all that and doing that. And I was like, this is the thing I need to do. This is what brings me the most joy. And it kind of spoiled me because the company was a UK company. So they were paying our stipends and all that stuff in pounds. Now, pounds in Southeast Asia, we were rolling in it, right? And obviously because we are part of the company, like it was like VIP service almost like everywhere we go. So now it's got in my head like, oh, this is what the life's supposed to be like. Forgetting you actually have to do the hard work. So fast forward, I had quit my job, came back. So I started in the freelance world. I always had the talent, but I never had the discipline, which showed like it kind of, because of that Vietnam experience, like, it's almost like if you give a poor person $1 billion, they blow it all because they're like, well, I've never had this kind of money before. I don't know what it takes to keep it and, like to actually multiply it. So that kind of was like very grateful for it, but it was like a huge ego shot. And anyway, fast forward, freelance journey, and freelance is going well, but eventually cracks start to show because I don't have that discipline. I'm relying too much on my creativity, not so much on actual hard work. So the fitness comes into it because then I forced myself I was always into fitness on and off. But, people's relationship with fitness is always like you have a fitness goal. Like, oh, I have a wedding coming up. Let me lose weight for that dress. You lose the weight. When the wedding comes, you go back to your old ways. Like, it's not a consistent thing. Like, it's a lifestyle thing. Mm-hmm. So I always used to do that. So people will see pictures of me in the past, like, oh, but you were fit there and then you were fat there. It's like, what was going on? It's like, yeah, I was going through a lot. So eventually I got to a point where I'm like, actually, I need to make fitness a lifestyle thing. It's necessary. So there's a gym not far from me, Explosive Functional Fitness, amazing coaches. Like they have this code. It's like we work out barefoot, it's like functional fitness and all that stuff. And I made it a point to go every single day. Like I didn't give myself that choice. Like I'm like, I have to, if I want to live the right way, and because of my spirituality and all that, I feel like our bodies, God gave us like we are the representation of God. So if I look in the mirror and I'm not proud of what I'm seeing, like what is God thinking then? I need to look in the mirror and be like, God's creation is amazing. So I make sure I eat right. I go to the gym. I learn. I educate myself, be good to people, all that stuff. And that all stemmed from me finding that discipline through the fitness, like forcing myself to do that hard thing every single day, started to leak out into other aspects into my life. So now I'm even more creative. Like before I used to be like, I don't want to do too much work on this thing because it will eat away at my creativity and I'll be too tired. And now it's like, I have so much energy from getting fit that I've got ideas for days. So people don't realize that the freedom is actually in the discipline. So people think, oh, if I get super disciplined and do all these things, it's going to limit this and this, and I'm going to have less time for this and this. It's like, no, it's actually the opposite. I only have my free time because I'm so disciplined. So that's where the fitness journey comes in and how I am.
Amazing.
I am.
And so you're like, what were you before that fitness journey?
So I've always been very creative. Like I used to make like music and stuff when I was like 16, 17, like beats. Like if you hear them, you'd think I was playing instruments. I literally figured things out myself because I'm that creative. But I lean too much in that creativity that goes into a deeper chat is because I was raised by women. So I had a lot of feminine energy, and feminine energy pulls a lot on the creativity and not the actual hard work side of it. So I pulled into a lot of that feminine energy, a lot of like pushing, creative, never do the hard work. Then when I eventually something just clicked in me and I was like, oh, actually, if you add the hard work with that creativity, now you're on a different level.
Mean combo.
Yeah.
It's like, we were talking about langarming. Do you know what a langarm is? It's the Afrikaans
direct
people.
Translation?
Long arm.
Yeah, that's what direct translation. I know what that is, but
the Afrikaans people do this dance and they call it langarm. It's a bit like it's Buddha music. It's Afrikaans music, and it's like
yes.
But the point I'm trying to make is that you talk about feminine and male and hard work and creativity, and I use the langarm dance as a metaphor for like the langarm wouldn't be the langarm if it wasn't for the man and the female working harmoniously in a dance together, and that's what makes it look so cool. It's the way, they move together. The male is in this dance, the male might be the lead, but he can't, the dance can't look beautiful without that feminine touch, and the two work symbiotically to create something cool and an energy that's moving, and I think that's essentially what you've summed up in what you've just said. Interesting. Wow. And I mean, physically, what were you before you did all the fitness? Were you like slightly overweight?
Yeah, so I was slightly overweight, but I didn't realize I was overweight because I didn't look like people I thought were fat. So when I look back on pictures, I almost look back and be like, whoa, how did I think that was acceptable? Almost like I can see that I'm unhealthy. You know, once you get to that self-awareness, be like, whoa, I thought I was happy there. I wasn't. But I was always cognizant of like the things I eat and all that stuff, but I was never disciplined enough to do it over a long term. So like I said, it'll always be like, well, I'm going on this trip or whatever, so I'll get fit for that trip. But you can't live off of that kind of motivation. You know, it has to be like a lifelong thing, like, because working out's not fun. Like, yeah, it's a tough thing to do. Now, to do that for every day, like all the time for the rest of your life, it can't just be because it's a goal that you're trying to reach. It's got to just be, this is what I do. The same way you breathe, the same way you make sure you've eaten and you sleep. Working out has got to be part of your life.
And this all stems from that chicken that you found.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Pretty much, yeah. Just
mindset of getting out there, making sure you seize the day, but work hard if you're going to do that and make it count, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's cool. What is your take on like Instagram and so much? Okay, so sobriety. Do you drink?
As a Corona ambassador, at the time of this recording.
I knew it was in this situation there. Everything in balance, right?
That is, yeah, you said it better than I can.
Yeah, everything. And I think that's unfortunately the difficult part for a lot of people, you know, is finding that balance. But anyway, I don't want to get into talking about, I wanted to chat to you about what do you think the difference is between a creator and a creative? Is there a difference? Because we hear the people define themselves as content creators, but are they creatives?
Okay.
Necessarily.
Okay. But so I'd have to go one step above before I come back to answer that question. So there's this theory, I heard it on a podcast, don't know who said it, that we think that we're the creatives, but creativity is actually in technically the eye of the beholder. The only thing that makes your video creative is someone else's interpretation of it. So they see something you did and they're like, whoa, how did you do that? To them, it's creative, but to you, it's logical. For example, a jump cut or whatever, to you, it's like, of course, if it's this shot, the next shot should be that. But someone else sees it in a video, they're like, whoa, how did you think of that? You're like, so to us, we're actually logical. Everyone else is the creative because they have to put a picture together of what you've created. So I don't even consider us creatives. But that theory aside, okay, so the creators and actual creatives, I think the difference is in, I'll say personally, the difference is in when I'm creating things, I want it to live on beyond just that moment. So a lot of people are posting on social media for certain things. So they're posting because they need to get paid or they want to get paid. So they're doing it for the fame. That's a content creator. A creative is like, well, I still want to get paid, but they still got to be, I've got to still have my creative input. I still need to express myself through this thing. So whether people are going to like this video or not, because I'm not putting these elements that'll make it go viral, I'm still going to share it. And this is what I do. So those are the creatives, the ones who don't care about the numbers and they're doing it purely because they love it. Then the content creator is someone who's just paid to do it.
Okay.
You could be both, obviously, because still the creative is still a content creator. But yeah, once you separate them, it's one's doing it for the money, one's doing it for the passion.
Yeah, and again, it's finding that balance. I always think of like architects, you know, and I'm probably going to get shot from architects here, but like there are a lot of architects who just draw plans, but they don't necessarily come up with creative concepts, you know, and they're quite happy to do that. Whereas you get some architects who will, like if they're going to build you a home, they'll literally, I know of one personally who will come and camp on your empty piece of ground in a tent, and he'll look at the direction of the sun and he'll feel the direction of the wind. He'll feel the soil. He'll experience what it's like to actually physically live in that environment from a practical point of view. But then he'll look at the terrain and topography, and then he'll look at the impact of the design of the home, and he'll go to like a piece of art, you know. and that house will look like a piece of art. It won't necessarily look like every other house on the block. And I think that's the difference between a creative architect and just a content architect who just draws up plans.
Can I disagree?
Okay.
So
no, please do.
That exact model that you explained, that's exactly how I use my working relationships. The same example I used earlier. So there's some architects who can who just do the plan, and there's others that'll go and camp in that detail. So that's me and Ali. So I'm happy to give the big picture idea, and I don't care about the details.
Okay.
See, so that's why I'm happy to empower someone like Ali, because he's that passionate. He wants to know the ISO of the camera and this and that. I'm like, I don't care. Let's just tell the story. I just want to tell the story. So you need people like that. Some people who are like, okay, bigger picture thinking, that's what we need to take care of. And other people who are going to be like,
finer details.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I still wouldn't separate them like that and say some people are just the architect and other people are deeper. I think it just depends on what you're trying to do with it.
Yeah, I think collaboration is the key word.
Yes, that's true.
And using each other's strengths to amplify one another, and to understand that someone has a particular strength and that's what they love and that's what they're passionate about, and if you don't possess that, but you see value in it, to be that, as you say, conduit to bring for everyone to bring something to the collective party. I think there's a lot of that happening these days, right?
It is. It is. It's been really good to see. People are realizing you can't do it on your own. Like, if you really want to do it really well, you can't do it on your own. I even used to fall for that thing of trying to do everything on my own, and it didn't work. Like, trying to do it on my own so that I get all the fame or I get all the money, but eventually it's like, well, you need other people. There are people better than you at certain things, and you need to lean into that.
True. But is everybody meant to be doing something great?
Ooh, tough one.
Because I feel like we live in a world where everybody thinks they should be.
And that's a problem.
We live in a world, and again, I challenge a lot of people on the gram on this one, who, and there's more aggressive ways to challenge this and unpack it. But I don't even know if I want to go there, because I start to question certain things about connections and how they ended up in this situation and how they make people believe what they are when in actual fact, in real life, that's not necessarily the case either. And how a lot of people are perceived as a certain thing, and they're actually behind the scenes working the system as well. And so, like, do we live in a culture of everybody wanting to, like, necessarily achieve greatness? And what is greatness in terms of, like, what we see on Instagram?
See, I think that goes down to everyone does have greatness in them. There's even doing a campaign. Everyone's got Michael Jordan genius in them with the night
It's a bit cheesy, though.
You'll see how it's not cheesy when I do it, though. Because it goes exactly to your point, because in the scenarios, it's always someone in a different place. So it'd be like a graphic designer wearing the shoe, a basketball player wearing the shoe, a person going on a date wearing a shoe. So greatness looks different for different people. The problem is the media is telling you that greatness is only if you have 1 million followers on Instagram. So as humans, because we're primitive creatures, we're like, oh, that's what everyone's doing, and they say we must do that. Let's all go for that thing. So now when someone doesn't get famous on Instagram, you're like, but that other person got famous. Now they think they're depressed. Like, no, you're not depressed. You're just following the wrong direction. We're not all meant to go the same way. Same way as when I found my purpose, I realized it's not for me to be the superstar. I'm the person that brings the work to the other superstars, to make other people superstars. So the problem is people are taking their direction for life on social media. It's like there's way more, the world is way bigger than social media. There's people, even when you think of billionaires, and there's some billionaires you don't know about because they're not doing the popular stuff. So you only know Elon Musk and all that, but you don't know about a master investor or someone who built a great forest or whatever because it's not sexy for social media. So there are other things out there. The problem is media is telling you social media, you got to be a YouTuber, you got to be an Instagram. It's like, no, you can be a great pharmacist, you can be a great botanist, you can be, it doesn't, just because not 1 million people are following you for it doesn't mean you're not great.
Yeah, for sure. And it's like I always say, I mean, Is the happiest place for you standing on a stage talking to 100,000 people? And how many people would be willing to put their hand up and say, that is my happy place? That is my happy place.
Exactly.
Not behind a screen, but literally standing in front of 100,000 people and talking to them. Is that your happy place? And I just think that, where am I going with this? I think that there's also, what do you think about toxic positivity?
That would tie perfectly with the previous example. This example they gave, Rich Paul gave. So you can, we're going for our purposes, right? And you feel like your dream is to be an NBA player, but you're 5 foot tall, right? So we're saying be super positive about it. Go for your dream, but everyone else starts at 6'5". So you could get to the NBA, but you'd have to work so hard. The extra hours that you would have to put in, by the time you get to the NBA, will it even be worth it? No, because that's not clearly you're not made for that thing. So in the same way you're saying, once you're in front of that stage of 100,000 people that now like you because you thought you're supposed to be a celebrity, will it bring you the happiness?
Yeah, just tell him, look, there's a Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory #4 coming out. Go for one of the Oompa Loompas.
Exactly. We don't all have to be superstars.
You don't have to be in the NBA.
You don't.
You can buy the kicks, but be an Oompa Loompa. They're just as cool.
Exactly. And there's a purpose. There's a purpose for everything. If all of us became super successful at whatever we want to do, then there's so many other things that won't work. We need people to sit in an office and be accountants and people to study law. We need doctors. We need so many other things. We can't all be Instagrammers.
Yeah. I think there's two ways to look at it. I often sometimes go I watch people go oh, look at this amazing place. This is amazing. It's amazing. And I know in reality, it's actually not that amazing. They're like, oh, where I live is so incredible and amazing. And I'm like, no, I wouldn't live there and I wouldn't want to be there and I wouldn't want to be doing what you're doing kind of thing. But you're trying to convince me and you're trying to convince a lot of people that it is, and I just think that. But there's a flip side to that. And the flip side is there's a lot of people who are living in dire conditions in this world and they look to positive people to uplift them and to see life in a positive way. That's another way of looking at it, right? But from my position, I sometimes find that sort of on Instagram that oh, it's amazing. My life is amazing. Everything's good. For me, I define that as almost toxic positivity,
I think it's down to your perspective.
Yeah.
So however, whenever someone says something to you, the way you react to it projects how you actually feel about yourself. So if I see someone on Instagram with a Ferrari and I'm like, oh, why is he showing off? It's because deep down inside, I'm like, I wish I had a Ferrari kind of thing. So if I see someone showing off with something, I can break it down and be like, well, they're doing that thing because they want to get this kind of attention or they need to pay a bill. Whatever. So I don't look at it as black and white, oh, this is why they're doing this thing. They're a bad person. It's always deeper than that.
I don't think they're bad people.
No, yeah, you're right. But that's the problem. Social media has gotten people used to making snap judgments of little clips and things they see. So now they've decided, oh, Steven's this kind of person because we saw a 5-second clip. I'm no.
Yes, yeah.
It's not reality. So in the same way that people are seeing things and be like, that's the life you should go for. You need to step back and be like, does that make sense actually for me and in general? Reality, no, probably not.
And then there's always the little unfollow button.
Facts.
There we go.
No one's forcing you to be here.
No, exactly. Hey, you're still looking at my stories. Can I just remind you that you're a fan if you're looking at my stories?
Exactly. Because you'll never get hate from above. There's no one better than you who's going to hate on you.
Yeah.
The fact that they're hating on you, you should already, if you can't see it, just start to think there's something that is really great about me that this person wishes they had. Even if they have 1 million more followers than me or whatever, the fact that they're showing me hate means there's something they envy about me. It helps to think about that stuff that way. Because it's reality.
I know I'm going to get to that 50,000 mark. And I knew you'd come here and make me feel better about myself.
My pleasure.
It's been great chatting to you. And I think I have been throwing a few little curveballs in there, haven't I? Only if you're willing to share this information. Your screen time.
I'd be happy to share that.
Yeah.
Actually, so it's a tricky thing. So people, even like with smartwatches and all these things, these apps track things or whatever, but they don't know the reality of why certain things are a certain way. So 1 week I can have really high screen time, but that's because maybe I was traveling and I was shooting a lot. So that counts as screen time, but it's not like I'm sitting around just scrolling social media and it'll say 9 hours on your phone, right? So my screen time actually this week is 23% down from the previous week. I make it a point that after I have a very busy week, I get rid of my phone so I can kind of like refresh. So I could show you, I'll show you on camera. It's probably about 12% down now. So every other week, I try to bring it down as low as possible. Like just minimize as many distractions because you know how distracting it is. Stay focused on what I'm doing. Then, you haven't asked the second question yet.
Are we judging people on screen time now? Let me see your screen time. Yeah, you're a doom scroller.
See, yeah, but it's tough too because even if I was doom scrolling, if it says 9 hours on Instagram, it might be 9 hours because I was watching a tutorial on Instagram. I'm not wasting my time. So it's very tricky. You need to look at what the screen time is, like what you're actually doing in that time, not so much the app.
So it said that the statistics are something like 80% of this younger generation growing up are on their mobile devices a lot of the time. As somebody who's mastered social media marketing, the content that you're putting out there, because you as an older generation and me as a probably even older generation, we've got this consideration for what we consume, possibly a stronger will to be able to say, well, I want to stop now. I've got to do more important things. I don't necessarily want to watch this. I can even unfollow. But for this younger generation and what they're being exposed to, as we live in a world where the impact and the amount of media that's getting thrown at them, how do you handle being mindful of the content that you put out and whether or not, and this is the kicker, whether or not that content is having a positive impact on your community and the younger generation or a negative one?
A very good question. Can I name drop?
Go for it.
Name drop. So I actually had a conversation on 702 on Friday about conscious travel. And this was one of the themes because they do feel like there is an issue in the digital, like people go to places and they want to create viral content. So they disrespect the locals, disrespect the places, customs, and all that stuff. So going back to my own content, I feel like most of the damage has already been done by media and all that stuff and making people like people are consuming negative things. So what I try my best to do is plant a seed. So if I'm doing a campaign where there's alcohol involved, but I don't believe in drinking alcohol, I'll find a way to show that life is good and that this product happens to be there. So you can still have this good life. You could add that product in there, but it's more important that you make sure you stay positive and you're a good person, right? So even in the content I create, I'm always trying to show alternative views of places, not trying to show people the same things they always see, because then it's like, what value am I actually adding? So in the same way as I know my purpose, every place I go to has to be better after I leave it. Even when I travel now, particularly with this film, I was like, I'm going to go there and I'm going to create content. Naturally, because of how good I am, this content's going to look good and people are going to like it. But what is the actual impact? So I chose Joshua's surf school because I was like, I want to make sure his business is thriving before we make the film. So once the film goes out and it gets all that attention, he's got a business already that people can reference. We're like, oh, that's the guy from the film. And now that brings him attention, right? So in the content, I'm always trying to achieve more than what you just see. So but like I said, because media has affected people so negatively, the negative stuff is going to do better on social media. But for me, I don't care whether the right person will see it. I'll continue putting it out no matter what. Even if it's not going viral, I'm like, this is my art and this is going to serve a purpose. Two purposes. One, to show people like the right way to live life, and also to show them don't be afraid to carry on being creative. Just be who you are. Because there's a lot of Instagrammers that have more followers than me, and they ask me like, how do you keep booking these campaigns? And why people keep hiring you? It's because even though it's not getting insane reach, the people it does get to, it actually makes an impact. So I could be happy having 1 million followers, but all the content I create, I don't even like. Then what's the point?
Yeah, but that's almost like the chicken before the egg. It's like you reverse engineering when you're using that particular surf, is it a school, surf school? Or?
He does surf classes.
Okay, so he's an instructor, surf instructor. That's correct.
One.
And so what you're doing is you're reverse engineering it by taking your own time and money and energy to empower him, and then presenting people with the story. Does that what you're doing to empower him get included in the story? Do they see that journey, or do they just come in from the side and see someone who's successful already?
I'd probably include that in the story. Like, the story itself hasn't been crafted the way it's going to go. His story will
Okay, I've just given you an idea.
Yeah, well, yes, thank you. We'll
thanks.
give writing credits in there.
You can send the royalties to
But yeah.
I am Steve, Pty Limited.
I will.
Sure, brother.
But that's, yeah.
It's on camera now. Don't cut this out.
Done. It's in there. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, document that.
Yeah. Well, everything will be documented. The point was that, yeah, so I'll just keep trying to anybody that's around me. I'm just trying to, how can I help you? Because in the end, God gives it back to me.
Perfect, bro. It's been an extremely insightful, amazing journey to be able to listen to you talk, Mr. Black Tony Stark. Nailed
it.
You came as an Instagram connect, and you leave as a friend. You are a man who's like gone after what you want to achieve. You've overcome some adversity. You've shown us that you can operate on the gram and in the social media space and still maintain your own integrity without having to sell your soul. So thank you very much for making time. Thanks for coming here, and thanks for leaving, making me feel a better person.